everybody, and welcome to Shawn Yancy World. I am super excited to introduce you to my next guest. She is one of the co-anchors of GMA3 What You Need to Know. You'll see her reporting on Good Morning America. She's the co-anchor of ABC's 2020, and you may remember her when she was my co-anchor a long time ago on WTTG right here in Washington, D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and help me welcome my dear friend and former colleague, Amy Robach. Amy!
Hi. Yeah, I virtually hear everyone clapping. So happy to be here with you.
Cheers to you, my friend. We like to say that sometimes on this show, we might spill a little tea, but mostly we'll have fun sipping champagne and drinking tequila. So that's a little, what's that you got in your glass? A little wine there?
Yeah, well, I'm a champagne girl too, though. That is my go-to. I start with the champagne and then you go from there.
Yeah, me too. That's exactly how it works. Okay, let's talk about GMA3. I know this is something that's happened more recently in your life. Tell us a little bit about the show. And I have some friends who've asked for the scoop on your co-anchor, TJ Holmes.
Okay. So GMA3 really was born out of the pandemic. I was just rolling around doing my thing, doing GMA here and there, focusing on 2020. And then all of a sudden, we're all on lockdown, and suddenly the light, fun show that was there, SSK, Strahan, Sarah, and Kiki, the tone didn't fit. We needed to have information minute by minute. It was changing. It was life and death at moments. People needed this information. So in a very organic way, What You Need to Know was born. And Dr. Jen Ashton and I did our very best to be transparent, give people the information they needed. And we worked really hard at that for several months. But, things aren't great, obviously. We've got a lot of dire predictions out there, but we did feel like there was a time in the summer where we could maybe bring a little levity, a little joy. And we've always tried to inspire while we inform. So we were informing, we were inspiring, but I think we wanted a little bit of fun as well. And so Entree TJ Holmes, one of my dear friends who I've worked with from the very beginning. We've always had a connection. In fact, I'm not even kidding. A few years ago, we enjoyed working together so much, pretty much like a verbal sparring that was happening daily, but we enjoyed it. It was fun. We thought, how could we get the bosses to let us work together? So we were trying to cook up a podcast or something where that maybe they'd see it and be like, they're great together. Well, it turns out we didn't end up having to do that because someone came up with the idea to put us together. And it has been so incredible because we actually have really similar backgrounds. We're both from local news and then to cable news and then to network news. And so we really bring, I think, a very similar experience to the table, but we have very different styles that I think work really well together. We learn from each other. We laugh together. We, give each other a few jabs, just keeping each other on, keeping each other fresh each and every day, always on my toes with him. DJ, say hi. Wow. Shawn Yancy and her followers. I like that.
Wait, this is recording or
yes,
this is
we're doing a little video. What, you suddenly don't know what to do in front of a camera?
No, I have to save it for the show. I'm a little low energy today.
Oh, was it the World Series?
It was a late night. It's just I'll get it together.
See this temperamental artist I have to deal with? Jen. I know. Let's buckle up.
Well, speaking of your TV family, I know a lot of people ask, what is it like to work with them? You work with so many great people from Robin Roberts to Michael Strahan. What is it like to work with them?
It's a dream. And I think, I grew up, watching Robin and being in awe of her, never imagining I'd be sitting next to her and never imagining that one day she would actually save my life. It was 7 years ago. She got me into that mammovan in Times Square and she convinced me to have this mammogram for other women because I really thought cancer couldn't happen to me. She, of course, is a breast cancer thriver and she's a 2-time cancer survivor. And so for her, I said, all right, I'll do it for another woman. And turns out the entire time I had stage 2 breast cancer that had already spread to my lymph nodes. And if she had not gotten me into that mammovan, I would not have gone until I was 50 or until symptoms presented, which is never a good thing, as you know, Shawn. And I will forever be indebted to her. So yes, I pay homage to her every day. I feel such a great sense of gratitude sitting next to her each day, but she's fun. She is fun. We have a good time. We dance together. We laugh together. We have a lot of really good nonverbal communication. You know, we have that too, Shawn, where you can just look at the person and you know what they're thinking and you know what they're going to do next. You know what to do, what not to do. We've got that going. So it's an absolute dream to work next to someone who I admire, respect, love, and like. And same for Strahan. There was a while there during the pandemic, they would always play the song Just the Two of Us when we came down, because it was just the two of us. Everybody else had to do their thing. Poor George got COVID, so he was quarantined for quite a bit. And then Robin, of course, had to protect herself because of her immunocompromised situation. So she was in her basement for months. So it was just Strahan and me sitting there, and we made the best of it, and we made the most of it. And I will say, he is so kind. He is so humble. He is so generous. He never forgets a birthday. He never forgets an anniversary. He is one of the most humble heroes I have ever had the pleasure to work with. And he's an absolute dream.
It is, I know, just amazing when you can work with people who also become your family. It makes all the difference in the world.
Shawn, you and me, we were family. We were in each other's lives when we were having babies and troubles, just talking through life. When you come to work in a way with somebody who you love and respect, it's almost like therapy. Yes. We'd have a lot of therapy sessions, you and me. A lot of times it was shopping, retail therapy afterwards, therapy after that. But we knew how to help each other out and support each other when the camera stopped rolling. And that's so important.
As Amy mentioned, she was diagnosed with breast cancer 7 years ago. She shared her journey in her New York Times bestseller, Better: How I Let Go of Control, Held On to Hope, and Found Joy in My Darkest Hour.
How are you? Where do things stand right now?
So thank you for asking. A lot of times people will say to you, oh, so it's over, like you're in remission, you're all good, right? And I think what people don't understand is once you have a cancer diagnosis, it is a lifelong diagnosis, because it requires, I'm on drug therapy. I have been, and I'm so grateful for the tamoxifen that I take each and every day, that I will for many, many years to come, and probably another drug after that, hopefully, for that targeted therapy. But you always live with the threat of recurrence. So early stage breast cancer doesn't kill anyone. It's metastatic breast cancer. It's stage 4. And 30% of all early stage breast cancer patients will become metastatic at some point. So there is a fear that hangs over every breast cancer patient's head. And I get a biannual blood work done, and that's their best way to guess if they're looking for tumor markers. I just had mine done a couple weeks ago, and I got the all clear. And so I have, a small celebration, but you kind of live in 6-month increments. And well, it's not morbid. Yeah. Cheers to that. Cheers to that. I 6 months to go. But I will say this, it's not a morbid thing to be aware that we are all fragile and that we all aren't guaranteed tomorrow. I actually find it to be incredibly motivating. I mean, it's crippling at first, the fear. But then if you can make that fear go from crippling to motivating, that's when you really start to live. I always joke that I live my life like a country music song. I live like I'm dying, because I am. We all are. We're all one day closer to death. I think a lot of us who have faced that in a real way with a cancer diagnosis are just uber aware of it. And so I live my life to the fullest, as much as I can. I have down days, I have dark days, sure. But I tell you what, when I wake up, I say to myself, how can I enjoy today? How can I love today? How can I find joy today? How can I give joy today? And I really make that my #1 priority in a way that I thought about it, but now it is my #1 goal in life, each and every morning when I wake up, and just to have that gratitude that I woke up, something as simple as that.
And I think that's one of the life lessons that people can take away when they watch you, when they hear you. And I know that you've said that the diagnosis and how it's changed your life has also affected how you parent, how you are a wife, how you do your everyday job, how you're a daughter, all of that.
It's changed everything about how I live, how I parent. I really don't sweat the small stuff. I just don't. I think about, if I were on my deathbed, or if tomorrow I got that bad news from my doctor, would I even care about what's happening right now? I mean, I think we all want to control things in our lives, but I think the moment you realize most of us control nothing. The only thing you can control is how you react to things. Right. I cannot control what happens to me on a daily basis. I can't control what my bosses think of me, what, a hater on Instagram thinks of me. And I think when you really can put the priority in place that we are here to give and to serve and to love and to guide our kids. The yelling, I think it's just a thing. I just realized, what am I yelling about? What am I upset about? And really just letting things go is the most freeing thing in the whole entire world. Being like, well, out of my control. I'm here to guide. I'm here to love. I'm here to serve. I'm not here to control, to force, to be angry. And one of the things I think that's helped me in parenting and as a wife and as a daughter and a sister and a friend is to take the should out of my vocabulary. Because when you're shoulding yourself or someone else, you are judging them. And that causes suffering. Like there's no point in saying should, if only, what if, all of those words, if I find myself saying them, I try to recognize it and then pivot away from it and say, I am causing suffering to others and to myself for no reason. Let's accept what is, and then let's try to figure out a way to enjoy the moment.
I like that. I'm mental note here, writing that down, going to put it on my Post-it note with everything else on the mirror to incorporate that into my daily life.
Yeah, you'll see how many times you say it. And then you're thinking to yourself, why am I making myself miserable right now? There's nothing, should doesn't change anything or anyone.
You got that right. You got that right. And by the way, I just want to give you, my mom says to tell you hello. She, 5 years, everything's good right now. She's also a breast cancer survivor and thriver.
Yes.
Wanted me to give you a big hello and say hi and all that.
Well, I want you to give her a hug for me, because it is true. When you meet another survivor and thriver, there is an instant connection. I mean, it could make me cry. There's an instant connection because we know what it's like. We know what it's like to live. And we also know what it's like to fight to live. And I think that is a huge thing. And I also I want to say something interesting as I've done all of these breast cancer stories, and I've spoken around the country, and I've gotten to learn so much from other people. But something really cool, I did an interview, I think it was 2 years ago now. Wow. You know, the Sully Sullenberger, when they landed the Miracle on the Hudson, right? And so we had I think 3 or 4 of the survivors and Captain Sullenberg himself. And right before the cameras rolled, we realized that 3 out of the 4 of us had recently climbed and summited Mount Kilimanjaro. And I thought, whoa, what are the coincidences of that? Like, that's amazing. I had done it for my 5-year cancerversary, and they had done it. And one of the survivors said this to me. She said, it's not a coincidence at all. She said, because at some point in everyone's life, everyone has their plane crash. It doesn't have to be cancer or an actual plane crash, but at some point, and sometimes you have multiple plane crashes,
right.
But it's what you decide to do with your life after that that counts. It's when you wake up and realize that time is not guaranteed. What would you do if you knew you had no time left? And so that's why we all decided to do these things that everyone talks about, but few people actually go and do, because we know that we are in a race against time. So get it done. Make a list of all the things you want to do and just start checking those boxes off. I know it's hard now during COVID-19, but things will get better, and we will be. I mean, I pivoted this time. I wanted to climb Mont Blanc, and we decided to climb Mount Baker in Washington State instead. You know, it was a glacier, and it was still hard. Maybe not as glamorous, but you find ways to say, okay, I still want to challenge myself and enjoy myself. I know a lot of people think I'm crazy wanting to do the things I do, but whatever fills you up, whatever makes you excited, whatever makes you feel like you're alive. And for me, it's being out in nature. But I just thought it was cool because it doesn't have to be cancer. It can be like a plethora of things. And unfortunately, I think everyone experiences that. And when it happens to you, you're like, oh, this is what it's like. This is the moment, the watershed moment.
That was very profound. I like the whole thought when the person said everyone has a plane crash. It may not literally be a plane crash, but we all do have those moments. And I'm already making my list now based on what you said. Talk about what it was like to climb Kilimanjaro. What was that like?
It was amazing. I had my brother, my dad, some of my girlfriends, and my daughters, and my stepson Wyatt, and my uncle Steve. You had to get a certain group of people who were willing to do the training and the practice. For me, it was a very emotional journey. It was a beautiful journey. And I have to say, you'd never know, it's a 50% chance of summiting because of the effects of altitude. 19,341 feet is no joke. And one of my friends, I cannot believe she made it up. I mean, she was vomiting from 16,000 feet all the way, like 8 hours later, still throwing up. Annalise, my daughter, was throwing up. Wyatt was throwing up. I was dry heaving. My friend Nikki threw. I mean, it is not for the faint of heart. Wow. I, for the last 2 hours, was pretty much crying, but I was like, I'm going to get there. And it's such an analogy for life, right? You struggle, you do it together, you get to the top, and then you really get to realize that it was the journey up that is what it was all about, not just the reaching the summit.
Right there.
Is that Kilimanjaro?
That's Kilimanjaro.
Wow.
That's it.
Yes? Wow, the snow, you see it. Wow, it was right there.
I knew that we might not all make it. I mean, it was a miracle that we all made it up to the top. We couldn't stay long. We got down real quick and we celebrated. But I would recommend it just because you kind of proved to yourself what you're made of. And again, not everybody medically, physically can do it. So it's not even that it's just your biology, you know, how you are with altitude. And like my brother and my dad, zero symptoms. They're really? I just thought to myself, how are you completely fine right now? And the rest of us are wrecked. But it was so awesome that all of us kind of went on to say, let's do the 7 summits. I mean, maybe not Everest, but let's start, you know, ticking more off. We all kind of got the fever and the bug of kind of setting this goal and then working towards it, but not just by yourself or for yourself, but with each other as a group. It was a beautiful moment. I was so proud of my family and my friends for doing it with me, actually, you know, to follow me along on this kooky idea.
Okay, I'm going to just say this randomly here. I think it's awesome. The girls and your brother went and your girlfriends went. I'm super, you know, excited that your dad went. Back in the day, you never knew this. There were a group of us who were like, Amy's dad's cute. Okay, I know that sounds weird. How is your dad, Amy?
Oh, he's so good. So he was so upset because he watched Andrew and me because for my 6th year, Andrew and I did the New York City Marathon. It was my first marathon. I'm always doing something crazy to kind of just show that my body is in fight mode and I'm ready to go. And my dad was having bad knees. And so he had been a marathoner earlier. He just turned 67, super young. And he was, I think, just so fired up watching us cross the finish line. He went and had his knee surgery done. And we were all going to run the Berlin Marathon this September. And you know, COVID struck. But he is running now. He just did a 10-miler and he's gearing up because he's going to run a marathon with us. So he's doing great. It's amazing. It's impressive. That keeps me going.
Please share our hellos to him and also to your mom. And I want to talk a little bit about your mom's project, what she's been doing. You've been sharing the keto recipes on social media. Tell us a little bit about this and how this all came.
So among those things, what you can't control, what you can control, especially when you're a cancer survivor, thriver, you're thinking, okay, what can I be doing to fight off any potential cancer? Like I said, be in fight mode. So yeah, physically I'm running, I'm hiking, I work out more than I ever have in my life and I've never felt better, but I knew the nutritional thing was something, you know how I used to eat. I was the worst. I was a carbaholic. I ate whatever I wanted. I was just not a very healthy person in terms of what I put inside my body. And so I decided that this was another thing that I needed to take on. And so I did some research, looked at a lot of articles, really felt strongly and passionately about having a low carb keto lifestyle because basically you're restricting sugar in your diet. And then obviously carbs turn into sugar if you have too many of them. So I try to keep mine, you know, around 30 grams of carbs, net carbs per day. And it seems so daunting and overwhelming at first. And I told my mom about it and I thought that they would kind of laugh at me like, Amy, what are you doing? That sounds like a crazy fad diet. But when they did the research, they kind of got into it too and decided to do it with me. And so then my mom and I kind of went into this frenzy of trying to create things that we loved that were keto friendly. And so my mom had all of these amazing recipes and I kept asking her for them. And I said, Mom, why don't you just do a website so I can not only click on them easily with not having to contact you all the time, but then everyone can do it. And so she like rolled up her sleeves and has the most amazing website called myketohome.com. And I'm telling you, it is the bomb. Like all of Good Morning America, all of my friends, I'm getting emails from producers saying, your mom's website is amazing. The food is so good. It launched right before the pandemic struck. So it was perfect as we're all cooking at home, trying to make meals for everybody every day and go to work and juggle everything that all these moms and working folks are trying to do. And then have this whole new challenge of staying inside all the time and eating the food that you prepare. But it's so good. I mean, I am eating things I never ate before that I didn't think I could. And while staying away from like, you know, the things I used to eat, like French fries, which is pretty much good food at all times. And it's great. Go ahead.
Do you ever have a cheat day?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I'll have like, if something smells really good, I'll have like 1 or 2 of them. You know, that's kind of how I look at it. And when I'm doing my long runs, I definitely will. Like I'm doing a half marathon this week, and I will definitely have like sweet potatoes. Like I try to keep them healthy carbs, but I'll definitely carb up while I'm running, right before I'm running, and a little bit afterwards, and then I go right back to it. I just actually now don't even like the way I feel when I eat carbs. I love the way I feel when I keep things, you know, just on healthy fats. And that's my main focus is healthy fats. Like I'm eating fat. I used to eat low fat everything. I did everything backwards before. And I was always hungry, constantly hungry. And now I'm never hungry. I fast every day. I just broke my 16-hour fast just now.
So is that like, I know a lot of people have been doing that lately. So it's like a 16-hour fast. And when,
that's what I do. Like 5 to 6 days a week, I intermittent fast. So I do 16-8 is what mine is. And it's so counterintuitive because you'd think, oh, you're going to be sluggish. Oh, you're going to have no energy. You're going to be tired. It's the opposite because you're running on ketones, and it's actually a much more efficient fuel for your body. So when I'm doing GMA all the way through my show, I haven't eaten one thing. I had black coffee, but that's it. And then when I get home, or I'll leave straight from the studio and have like an amazing Cobb salad. I just made myself eggs and cheese, you know, and avocado, and it's great. I've never felt better. It actually makes your mind, like mental acuity is one of the amazing side effects that comes from intermittent fasting and the keto diet. So I've 4 years and strong now, and I don't see myself ever going back, except for like, you know, yes, when there's a cheesecake in front of me, sometimes I have a few bites.
Okay, so it's a lifestyle now. I get it's a lifestyle. Let me ask you real quick, because I want to get to some fun questions for you real quick. You've had an amazing career from South Carolina to Washington, D.C., to MSNBC, NBC, now ABC. Over the course of your career, what do you think was the most challenging interview you ever did with someone?
Challenging.
Or, you know, what was your favorite, your all-time favorite interview?
That's so hard to pick because I think if I had to pick my one that I think will stay with me and I learned the most from, and it was such an honor, I think it was when I interviewed Malala Yousafzai in Nigeria. And it was interesting because it was right after I finished all my treatments, and I decided to just go crazy and rent a villa in Italy for all my girlfriends and my 2 daughters and my mom and my aunt who would help me get through. And I get the call that Malala on her 17th birthday is going to shine a light on the young women who had been kidnapped by Boko Haram in Nigeria. And she was spending her birthday going there, and she would do an interview with me. And I've been working on trying to get the interview for months, you know, the booking process. And of course it all came and fell into place right in the middle of my Italian vacation. And I just thought, really, like, you know, this is my celebration of getting, you know, going into remission. And so I decided to cut the vacation short and to go from, that's a big change, to go from Tuscany into Abuja, Nigeria. Abuja. And, but it was so worth it. I mean, this is the 17-year-old girl telling me that every voice counts, that her big theme was the power of one voice, the power of one young girl from Pakistan who no one knew, who the Taliban shot in the head, who tried to silence this one small voice. And by trying to silence this one small voice, the world heard from hundreds of thousands. And the power of that, and how that falls into place for every story you and I ever tell as a journalist, or even our own stories, that we think it doesn't matter or that no one's listening. But if you save or change one life based on your story. So I was really debating whether or not I wanted to keep talking about cancer, if I wanted to be an advocate. I had gotten a lot of criticism for things I said or didn't say, and I was really feeling down and low. I had some pretty tough articles written about me saying that a mammogram saved my life, that I could never say that. And while true, because I won't know if it saved my life until I die of something other than breast cancer, I do know that it gave me the best chance at survival. And so everywhere mammography has been introduced in the world, the death rate has dropped. But I was really questioning all of this. And I have this 17-year-old girl with this beautiful half smile because part of her face is paralyzed from that bullet, telling me your voice matters and never let your critics silence you. And it was exactly what I needed to hear, and what the world continues to need to hear. If you've got a message, you should speak up. Robin Roberts always says, make your mess your message. But it's just this full circle moment with me and learning so much from a 17-year-old who I hope one day will continue to do great things. And her dream, of course, was to go back to Pakistan and lead one day. And she did get to go back. She hadn't been able to go back for safety reasons. And it was the inspiration that we all needed, but that I needed even individually and didn't know it. So I think for that reason, it will always probably be my most memorable interview, because who would have thought that you would learn so much from someone so young and yet so wise?
I always believe we never know who God is using to speak directly to us, but maybe that was that moment where he used her to talk to you, but also to help talk to the world. So it was a beautiful interview. I do remember it. All right, we're going to switch into a different mode. This is kind of like our rapid fire mode, although you can think. You don't have to answer rapidly if you want, okay? We're going to go into our Ask Amy questions now, okay? All right. We all know that you married Andrew Shue, the actor who played Billy Campbell on Melrose Place. But way before you met Andrew, you had a crush on one of the actors who was on the show. Was it Billy, played by your husband, Andrew Shue? Was it Doug, played by Matt Fielding? Was it Jake, played by Grant Show? Or was it Peter, played by Jack Wagner? Ding, ding, ding.
It was obviously Jake.
I mean, I had a crush on Jake too.
And I told Andrew on our second date, I felt like I had to tell him that I was Team Jake and Grant Show. And I just he was just the kind of the bad boy on the motorcycle. And Andrew was like a good guy from next door.
I mean, I think a lot of people were like that. I mean, I had a crush on Billy too, but then you married him and we're like, oh, that's weird. Can't have him anymore. So, all right. Next question. When you were a child, you were a competitive figure skater, chess player, runner, or gymnast?
Gymnast.
Ding, ding, ding. So tell us about that briefly.
So yeah, for 6 years, I was a competitive gymnast. I was 40 hours a week in the gym and had pretty much no life whatsoever. And so it did great things for me in terms of discipline and knowing my body and knowing what I could do and all of those things. But at a certain point, I just knew that I wasn't, I was good, but I wasn't great. And so I remember I finally got my mom to point blank ask my coach, is she going to be able to go to the Olympics? And he said, no.
Wow.
I said, Mom, can I quit now? And then when I finally got to that place, I think I was 13, almost 14. I remember the weight lifted off of me because it is a lot of pressure.
When you started at WTTG here in Washington, D.C., you were a morning meteorologist, the traffic reporter, or a photographer and camera person?
I was the Sky Fox reporter. Helicopter. I did not want to be the chopper chick. That was like my biggest concern. So I kept very newsy and very breaking news. That was like my big thing to our news director at the time, Catherine Green, because I had been, a serious reporter. And I got to anchor the news at noon as well. But I just wanted to make sure that I kept things very newsy. I did not want to be objectified, and I was concerned about that. But I will tell you, that time I had about a year and a half in the chopper honed all of my ad-libbing skills. I mean, who knew that I'd be at MSNBC a few years later talking over helicopter shots with the script for hours on end, I mean, so it ended up being exactly the training I needed to just be able to fly by the seat of my pants at the same time, talking over video where I didn't have a lot of information, but could only speak to what I was seeing. So I'm so happy I did that because it absolutely served me well later.
If you were on a deserted island and a boat came to save you and you could only take one person with you, you have to pick, all right?
Oh my God.
Do you save Tiki Barber or Michael Strahan?
I mean, I love Tiki, but I think I'd have to save Strahan.
Okay, all right. Do you save Lisa Vanderpump or Lisa Rinna?
Oh, well, I think I do Vanderpump because I love her rosé.
Ding, 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 ding. Cheers to that. Okay, we'll
really good, actually. I mean, I actually really like it.
You save the Florida Gators or the Auburn Tigers?
Oh, God. Honestly,
okay, we say that, everybody, because Amy is a Georgia Bulldog, and I knew this was going to be tough for her.
I think I'm going to have to go, I'd save Auburn, because I just can't stand those Gator people in my face doing this. The Florida-Georgia rivalry, I think, is just too great for me to ignore. I'm going to have to go with Auburn. I say
right.
Auburn.
Ding, 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 ding. Cheers to you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us today for Shawn Yancy World. I love you. And we will be watching you every morning. We will be watching you on 2020 in the evenings. Cheers to you and thank you.
Cheers to you, Shawn. Love you.
And thank you guys for joining us for this edition of Shawn Yancy World.